Hi everyone, welcome to my booktube channel. I'm Celeste and today I am sharing a very small mini birthday haul and letting you know via a little birthday chat what I've been up to these days. That opening footage, wasn't that just gorgeous? That's sort of my own Great White Way, like in Anne of Green Gables with the beautiful blossoms on the trees. That's actually right across the street from where my son and I live at a really nice public park, and I just love walking under the canopy of those blossoms in the springtime. And I couldn't resist showcasing, of course, Anne of Green Gables, because we all know the Great White Way is featured in there. And this is my illustrated junior library copy that I just absolutely adore. I think the art on this is just gorgeous. Some of them come with these plastic casings on them and others do not. It just depends on how old they are and what condition they're in. But I just think this is a lovely, lovely copy of Anne of Green Gables. So I have been having kind of an April Anne of Green Gables month. I started out by reading or rereading Anne of Green Gables, and I absolutely adored it. I think in the summertime, maybe in July-ish, I'm going to have a whole vlog that's just devoted to my love of these books and of L.M. Montgomery. And it's the 150th anniversary of L.M. Montgomery in the Toronto area in Canada. And I went to university in Toronto and lived there for about 3.5 years. So I may go up there for that. I don't know. We'll see. But in any event, I really loved my reread of this. There's a lovely picture of Green Gables on the back there. So that is just a beautiful book. And then I also went on to read the second book in the Anne Chronicles, and that is Anne of Avonlea. And I did get this lovely edition, also illustrated junior library, and I think the illustrations in here are just wonderful, just so precious. And I enjoyed my reread of this too. It is such a lovely read, you know. In Anne of Green Gables, Anne is so young and full of wonder, and her take on life and her philosophy and her reactions to everything is just marvelous. In this book, she is a little bit older. She's in her teens. She's teaching at a school during the course of this second novel by L.M. Montgomery. And so her reactions to things aren't quite as full of, well, they're full of wonder, but she's just a little bit more mature. And so we're sort of growing along with the character. Her philosophy is not as extravagant. And I would say, whereas the first book, even though it's a series of vignettes or episodes, it does have an overarching storyline or narrative arc going through it. This book felt upon reread as much more of a series of vignettes strung together. Still wonderful, still full of those descriptions of nature that only L.M. Montgomery can create and evoke. I would say that my favorite part of this novel, Anne of Avonlea, was the episodes involving Miss Lavender. I kind of identify with Miss Lavender, and I just loved her little stone cottage at Echo Ridge. And I thought it was just lovely. Not quite as incredible as Anne of Green Gables, but still absolutely worth reading. And I am now looking forward to going on to the next novel in the series, which is Anne of the Island. Haven't read that in forever, so I'm super looking forward to that. I so identify with Anne and with L.M. Montgomery, and that was made even clearer to me, my affinity for them and for that world, after reading Lucy Maud Montgomery, The Gift of Wings, and this is by Mary Henley Rubio. This is such a wonderful biography on the life of L.M. Montgomery. A lot of darkness in her life as well. And I'll tell you, when I was reading, in fact, I've had that feeling going through my reread of all of the Anne books. You know, you can read it on a number of different levels. You can read these books as a child, at a child level, that is sort of innocent and perhaps a bit naive, sort of rosy colored. Then if you're a person who has lived a life and had a few experiences or had some darkness touch your life, you also read between the lines, and that's actually what I am most interested in. We all read for coziness and comfort and all of that, but you know, when you read between the lines, you really hear L.M. Montgomery's voice and the darker times that she experienced with depression and so on. And I don't know, the whole time I was reading this, like for example, when Anne is talking about having been at an orphanage and having lived with a family where someone drank, and she made up a friend as a reflection in the mirroring glass of a cabinet. You know, you don't just read those on sort of a funny anecdotal level. You read between the lines and see that, you know, there is a dark story there as well. And so I think Marilla is kind of the person or the character in the Anne books that sort of represents that, whereas Anne is more of the sort of positive, sunny side, the optimistic side of things, and they kind of balance each other. In fact, they're sort of, in some ways, balancing persona of one person. So it's interesting to see how L.M. Montgomery writes that. And so I found this book really gripping, really fascinating. This is published by someone from Canada. It's published by Anchor of Canada, and Mary Rubio was professor emeritus at the University of Guelph, not too far from where I was at the University of Toronto. And all of Lucy Maud Montgomery's papers are housed there, actually, all of her letters and correspondence and journals and so on. And so if you want to do a deep dive that goes beyond the flowers and the trees and all of that, and is a bit more sobering look at L.M. Montgomery, this is a powerful book, and I highly recommend it. And based upon sort of everything I've just said here, it was also really interesting to do a rewatch of the, is it 1985? I'll look that up, but the Canadian TV version of Anne of Green Gables that's so popular, and it's just beautiful. The acting in it is wonderful. The people they chose to take each role, they're perfect for the parts. And it was just charming. And that I would call more of the childhood, more beautiful and rosy version of the Anne of Green Gables story. And then to balance that out, I had never seen Anne with an E, which is on Netflix. Late to the party on that one, but I started watching that, and oh my goodness, I love it. I'm on season 2, so I haven't watched the whole thing, but I am just absolutely in love with it. From the very first opening of the episode, first of all, can we talk about how gorgeous that opening is? The music is beautiful, the montage of images of Anne and the trees and nature and the woodland animals is just perfect. That in a sort of cinematic way really tells you about the character of Anne and her relationship with nature and how she perceives the world. And the fact that it is darker, I did read some criticism of it saying, I can understand wanting to do a different take on the Anne of Green Gables story. I just wish they hadn't done it to Anne. And I can understand that because we want to keep it rosy. But on the other hand, that is real life. There were orphanages that mistreated the children, the wards that lived there. Marilla in Anne of Green Gables oftentimes does she's not, I don't know if I would call her racist. She doesn't really want to have a boy working for her that is of another culture. Let's put it that way. There are some definite stereotypes around orphans and around children who have been left destitute and so on. But in any event, it handles it in such a realistic way. And while it does take numerous liberties with the original stories, I think the way they did it was super appropriate and very much in keeping with the reality of life during those days. Right now I'm watching the episode where Gilbert is on a ship and goes down to the Caribbean, and his eyes are a bit opened about slavery while he's down there. These things were all happening at the same time. So, when we talk about beautiful childhood classics and we're, reflecting on how gorgeous they are and how life was so much simpler, well, who was it simpler for? Simpler for some, maybe, but the good old days were only the good old days for some. And I just love the way that Anne of Green Gables handles that head on. And the little girl that plays that role is just so wonderful. It's all wonderful. I think it's all wonderful. So I'm so excited to continue with Anne with an E. And then just before I go on with some vintage books that I received as a mini haul for my birthday, because I love receiving vintage books on my birthday in particular, all throughout the year, of course, but also on my birthday. I just wanted to point out this lovely little brooch that I received from my son as a birthday present, and I will do a close-up of that for you. I'm not quite sure where this came from. I will try to eke that out of him, but I just think it's absolutely charming. And the name of this little fellow is the Blackberry Thief. They also apparently have one with strawberries and I think one with raspberries and cherries. But the blackberry is just so sweet, and it's either a little vole or chipmunk or something like that, a mouse. I'm trying to tell, but I just love how he's actually hanging from the branch on the brooch, and I love the berries on the side of it. I just think it's the sweetest thing. So thank you to my son for that. And then I did get 3 lovely vintage books for my birthday. And the first of those is called Dandelion, Cottage. And this is a book by Carroll Watson Rankin. Look at this lovely, lovely cover. I just love it. I absolutely love it. And here's the author on the back here. She was born in 1864 in Michigan's Upper Peninsula on the south shore of Lake Superior. I don't know much about this book yet, but apparently Carroll Watson Rankin lived in Marquette, Michigan, and wrote some sort of locally inspired books. She wrote a number of books, and a lot of them had to do with the area she grew up in and lived in. And she was sort of regionally famous in the early 1900s. So this book, Dandelion Cottage, don't you just love the name of that, first of all? I was almost tempted to change the name of my channel to Dandelion Cottage because it's just so cute. But in any event, this, I think, would be a perfect book for summer. I think it is definitely for younger readers. It's a pretty simple story from what I can see so far, but it's the story of 4 girls. I think the oldest of them is 14, and they are childhood friends, and they live in a little village in Michigan near Lake Superior, and they live near a church in their neighborhood. And on the property of this church, on the land, there is a little abandoned, rundown, ramshackle old cottage. And these 4 girls ask for permission over the summer vacation to beautify it and to fix it up. And I believe they start out by pulling all the dandelions. And then their parents give them some sort of old cast-off furniture, and they decorate it with vases of flowers and things like that. And it's sort of just their summer pretending and playing in this cottage. I think at one point they actually have a tenant who lives there, and they also have some grumpy neighbors who don't like the fact that they're fixing up this cottage. It just seems like such a really sweet book for young children. And I found out apparently Dandelion Cottage is an actual house that still stands today. I'll see if I can find a picture of it, but it's a little tiny house in Marquette, I want to say. And it just appeals to me because I love any story that involves a clubhouse or a little abandoned house or cottage or a cottage in the woods, anything that gets fixed up and made cozy. And so this is a perfect book for me. In fact, when I was a little girl, my brothers and sister and I had a little log cabin in our backyard right at the edge of Allen's Creek. And there were elm trees that sort of hung over the creek, and then the little cabin. And we used to fix that cabin up in the same way with little furnishings and food, and we would serve little meals out there and things like that. So it was a lot of fun. So yes, Dandelion Cottage. I can't wait to get to this during the summertime, and I'm adding that to my summer TBR. And then secondly, this next book, is so near and dear to my heart, and I haven't read it in ages. I received this vintage 1940 copy of Blue Willow by Doris Gates. And this is my copy that was given to me as a gift, but it does have a protective plastic cover on it. And oh my goodness, you've probably all heard of Blue Willow China. And this is a book about a little girl named Janie Larkin, and she's an only child. She's the daughter of migrant workers who travel around. They're itinerant, and they're called pickers. And I'm presuming this was written based on events from the 1930s during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. It's set in California in the San Joaquin Valley, which is where the author Doris Gates wrote about and I think was from. And Janie Larkin and her family are always picking up and moving, and they never have a permanent place that they can call home because they travel itinerantly to find work to pick crops, cotton and what have you. And she wants a permanent home. Someday she wants to just be able to settle down and stay as long as she likes, instead of having to move with her parents based on where the work is. And the one thing that anchors her and gives her hope is a blue willow china plate that she will inherit someday. And so it's sort of a family treasure. And we all know, well, maybe we don't all know, but there's the story of the blue willow plate and how it could have been a tragedy between two lovers, but it has a happy ending. But there's also hardship depicted in it. This story has been called The Grapes of Wrath of Children's Lit. So it's a Great Depression era story of a little girl's resilience and hope. And I am so up for this, and I'm putting it on my list to read this summer as well. So that is Blue Willow. I just love this edition, and the illustrations by Paul Lantz are gorgeous. Here's the sort of iconic front page cover. And I love the cover illustration, and each chapter heading also has a little image, and there's some beautiful full page, I want to say charcoal pencil maybe. It's just beautiful. This was a real coup. I love Blue Willow. This is a classic, and I'm so glad to have a vintage copy of this. And then finally, I also received this book as a gift from family, and this is The Language of Food by Annabel Abbs. Isn't this just a beautiful, beautiful cover? It looks like Delft tiles from somebody's kitchen. So there is that with the foiling on it. And yeah, so this book I don't know much about. I did hear it being talked about during Foodie February, which I completely missed, and it was co-hosted by Redhead Reading and Ashley, the Untrained Librarian. And I apologize for somehow missing the whole thing. I don't think they tagged anyone. But I definitely would have read this then if I had known. But in any event, I think Redhead Reading is the one who talked about this book. And this is a novel, but it's based on a true story, and it's about the writer Eliza Acton. And she is a writer. She wants to write poetry, but her publisher tells her that she shouldn't be writing poetry. What the public really wants are recipes, and that she should be writing a cookbook. And at first she doesn't want to do that. She wants to write poetry, but then she finds the poetry in food and the romance of food and so on. She hires a young woman named Anne Kirby. This is in 1835 that it takes place, apparently. And it's the story of the two women's relationship. I love stories about women's history, and I love food history. And apparently this is based on a true story. And, you know, it's set a little bit after the time of Jane Austen, so I think that will probably prove fascinating. I've seen fairly good reviews of this on Goodreads and so forth, so I was really happy to receive this as a gift, and I'll probably get to this summer. I'm thinking maybe July. So maybe part of Jane Austen July or something like that, even though it's set a little bit later. Yeah, so that looks really good as well. So that is everything. I did get a few other gifts, but I'm not going to go through those in this video. I will be sharing them with you soon though. And just wanted to catch up with you about LM Montgomery and all the reading I've been doing in that arena, and the shows that I've been watching, and the vintage books that I got from my birthday. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous day out there, and the birds are singing, the skies are blue, the trees are blossoming, and so I'm going to go out and take a nice long walk with my son, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.